All right.
Yes, we're going to do this.
Right.
I think most of you, maybe all of you in this room know Digg, but in case you don't, Digg was the place where everyone went to find out what mattered on the internet, starting in 2005 when you founded it.
2004.
2004.
Back in the day, yeah.
So, like Reddit, there was upvoting, downvoting, people shared links, the site would sort of crash routinely under the weight of all the traffic.
Yeah.
It sold later on, you just bought it and are rebooting it.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, Alexis Ohanian, who started one of the co-founders of Reddit, he left that firm, and it's very public how he left, largely because there was a bunch of content that he didn't want to see on the site. I had walked away from Digg quite a while ago, and so we wanted to reboot what was possible for social, like reinvent some of the stuff. We started kind of comparing notes around the unfinished business, the features and things that we hadn't launched, and the asset came up and was available, and we thought, gosh, let's pick this up and just bring in a great CEO. So we hired a fantastic CEO, and then Alexis, myself, and Justin, we get together and we just brainstorm the future of social. And we have a long way to go. It's early days, but come kind of Q1 of next year, we'll unveil some of the things that are really unique and novel and that we haven't seen done before.
That's really great. So you kind of took the wraps off this plan back in maybe March, and I'm seeing some screenshots here that I'm not sure if the audience can see, but do you want to maybe walk us through?
Yeah, this right here is just some of the community creation that we'll have coming up here in January of next year, sometime around there, which is basically opening up the taxonomy, allowing people to create custom communities for anything they might have interest in. So, very similar to a subreddit, but what gets really interesting is what happens above and beyond this, because we're not just building to create feature parity with Reddit. We really want to create some novel things here that are exciting.
And I think what's sort of interesting to me about this, we had talked about it when you were launching in March, or sort of soft launching, is there's a new monetization piece here that is not true of Reddit. You want to sort of compensate moderators for their time in some way. I don't know if this is through equity or sort of a straight payment, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, when we first started Digg in 2004, before Reddit launched, we were very lucky because we had thousands and thousands of people, and eventually millions of people that would come in and contribute content. Mm-hmm. And they're not getting paid. They're just unpaid, moderators, admins, whatever you want to call them. And then, Reddit took that further and they opened up the taxonomy. But it is a lot of work. Whenever we talk to some of the bigger Reddit moderators that are out there, they talk about just, the ones that have millions of members have to have round the clock, like call it a dozen plus people, working on making sure to kick out bots, to deal with all the spam issues they have, the fights that are happening, and they're not seeing any slice of that revenue. And they don't control the audience either. So you're talking about something where you're signing up and creating all this value for a platform, but you can't port that platform anywhere else. You can't capture any email addresses. You can't stay in touch with that platform. You can be ousted of that platform. And in fact, when communities get too large, they're oftentimes trademarked. And so you actually don't have the ability. Wall Street Bets is a great one, where the creator, one of the co-creators of Wall Street Bets, tried to write a book called Wall Street Bets and was sued by Reddit for doing so, when they're the actual ones that came up with the name. And that when I talk to Alexis and we think about these things, it seems a little backwards. Like, if anything, we should be more similar to Substack or Patreon or some of the others that are actually giving you much more control of your community and where that belongs. And if we're not the best platform for you, then by all means, take your audience someplace else and port it, because that should be on us to provide the best platform.
That must be, pretty liberating to think about for these people. I'm just wondering, do you see this, community management as potentially like a full-time job, or just sort of a nice way of saying, we appreciate what you've done, and here's,
Yeah, in our conversations with some of the moderators, they would appreciate anything because they're getting nothing today. One of them said, yeah, it'd be nice if I did this full-time. We had another one that said, I would love a cup of coffee a month or something.
Just some acknowledgement.
Just to do something, right?
Right.
And so I think if your audience is big enough, it should be properly compensated. There's a bunch of different models that we're exploring, but one that I like, I think there's death by 1,000 subscriptions. I think the idea of paying $5 for every community is just a non-starter. It's really difficult to do. People have so many paid Substacks or all the things that they're subscribing to. We like the kind of Netflix model, which is essentially where attention goes, money flows. And so if we have some type of platform where they can join and receive the attention-based rewards for that. So whether it be either ads-based or subscription-based, and you see transparently how that's flowing throughout the ecosystem. So if you're part of /Japanese Woodworking, you can see, oh, they have this many subscribers, it's because they have this much attention. Here are the dollars that are flowing in. It's flowing to this moderator, this co-creator, and then they're gonna throw parties, events, whatever it may be, with the use of this proceeds. So we wanna do that as transparently as possible and make it really simple. So if you only spend a day there a month and you're paying $10 a month for your subscription, maybe it's a few cents that go your way. But in aggregate, that's actually really meaningful if you get to millions of users.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I asked because in part we were talking backstage about the future of the workforce and how so many more people are going to be entrepreneurs, whether they realize it or not from now, and looking for new ways to work. One thing I also wondered was, you mentioned toxicity, and it's obviously a huge problem. And you're using AI tools to sort of combat that. I do always wonder if that is a technical issue or a cultural issue, because we're still seeing, on X, investors who we know have taken on these sort of very combative personas to get attention. I mean, I just think it's a very hard thing to overcome.
Yeah, I think, everyone is on social for different reasons. Some people say that they're tired of the toxicity, but they're the first to comment and jump in and dunk on someone socially online. That said, we think of these things as almost like smaller micro communities of really trusted people that you can eventually, with all these agents and everything that's coming online, where they can befriend you and they can fake like they're an actual human, we have to break these apart into verifiable, trustable, small micro communities around a theme, a topic. And if we can create that intimacy and that idea of real connection with other humans, I think that's a huge win. And you don't need many people coming together to create like really highly valuable content and community around that. So when we think about some of these things here, like Digg for Fun, Digg to Learn, Digg for Today, like those are kind of curated feeds that you can customize and say, I want more of this or less of that. And you'll have fine-grained control over how you view and slice the data. So one of the things that we did some data analysis on, which is before, back in the old social days, if we had a politics section or category, that would largely encapsulate, call it like 95% of all political commentary would be inside of that arena. And so it was very easy because you could say, oh, turn this off and I just won't see anything more that's political. But now politics is so pervasive and it's everywhere that we're having conversations, and it like shows up around, the name of a restaurant or whatever, like the things are popping up all over the place. And so what you have to do and what we can do now is essentially every single comment and story that comes in to Digg, we can hit a ML pathway that we have to Google that will classify it in 15 different ways. So is it hate speech? Is it political? Is it this or that? And we get back these scores, and then we can say, okay, to the user, if you don't want to see political chatter, you don't want to take place or see the more controversial kind of like, topics that are causing a lot of hate and really anxiety-provoking topics, you can kind of slide that slider any way that you want, and then immediately that content filters out for you site-wide. Right. And so we want to give users the control over that, whereas if you are into politics, you can jump into that arena and have fun and or whatever it is that you do over there, but you can jump into that, but you'll know what you're about to walk into when you do so. So it's more of an opt-in. We almost think of politics in some sense as like almost like a lightweight, not safe for work community these days, That
seems apt. I just wondered how it's going, I guess. I read somewhere, maybe it was last month, that there were 17 communities. Again, I know this is sort of still invite only. So I guess what are your learnings so far? Has anything surprised you? And also, when are you officially launching so that everybody can?
We don't have a hard date, but it's like, call it Q1 of next year is when we're really going to go out and open it up. So we've got a couple 100,000 people that are waiting on that wait list to get in. And we've been slowly opening that up, but we really have a lot of kind of table stakes functionality, which is the boring stuff, but you just need to have it as a platform. And then there's the crazier stuff, which is really kind of what you're seeing here, which is the ability to turn on agents inside of communities. So you can come in and say, hey, listen, my community is for movie fans, or my community is for X. I work and I have a conversation with my agent. I want to build custom modules and a custom interface for my community, almost like a Replit or a Bolt for social communities, but within those kind of guardrails. And so we want to wake up pleasantly surprised and be like, oh, look what somebody deployed. They deployed this new agent that anytime a movie is mentioned, automatically when you hover over it, the Rotten Tomatoes scores appear. Or if it's political in nature, they're automatically going out and crawling and hitting the Brave Search API so that we can show, left, middle, and right takes on the same topic, all in the same place. And so those are like the magical unlocks, but you have to build the scaffolding and framework and kind of infrastructure to pull that off.
And there's still sort of the is there a like function?
Yeah, the voting itself is all via Diggs, the way it was back in the day. But what we're not doing this time around, and this is where we got into trouble, is back in the day, I had the first patent for socially liking something and then feeding it back into an algorithm.
Which is, if we can pause there for a second, that's huge. It
was the most valuable thing. It was funny, it's like the site sold off for next to nothing. LinkedIn bought all the social patents for millions of dollars because they found that to be their defensible way against the Facebook like and all of that, because we had prior IP to all of that. But so that ended up being the most valuable thing. But the thing that was brutal about that is it was used in a way to kind of amplify a lot of things that we didn't anticipate.
Right.
We had no idea that if we showed you more things of the things that you like, if you're a bad person in that arena, then you're going to amplify things that can cause a lot of bad things to happen.
Yeah.
So this version of Digg is very much like we're very transparent algorithms, very much you're able to fine tune that for yourself and really see fully and truthfully like how am I getting this information versus some black box there.
Well, so you are involved in Digg, but you're not the CEO. You mentioned Justin as the CEO. You are also a general partner at True Ventures, and I wanted to maybe spend the rest of our time talking about your what you're funding, because I've always loved your sort of insights. One thing I wanted to ask, I see that you're wearing, I guess, is that an Aura?
Yeah, that's the Aura, yeah.
And I had talked to the CTO of Aura on stage a couple weeks ago. Aura is so dominant, 80% of market share. It feels very hard to compete with it, but I did notice on Twitter that you had tweeted out a ring that looked a little bit Aura-esque called the Sandbar, and I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's an unreleased product in that it hasn't been publicly announced yet. So I was on the board of Aura for a few years, and I'm still a shareholder there. So Sandbar is not Aura in that, I don't want to disclose anything, but it's not health and fitness.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably a big,
a wearable that's
you probably saw it and you're like, oh, another fitness ring.
Yes,
yeah,
I
so
thought maybe it was going for like a younger demographic. Okay.
But I will have two things.
Well, tell me a little bit more about, I guess, that intersection of AI and hardware, because I think everybody's trying to figure it out. I mean, what we keep seeing over and over again is everybody developing glasses, which I candidly think is not a great idea. I'm not interested in wearing glasses, and I'm not interested in talking to somebody wearing glasses, and I wonder what your thoughts are on those, glasses specifically, and also if there's something else that you've seen that's interesting.
Yeah, I've avoided almost all AI hardware type of investments, and we do a lot of hardware at True. Peloton and Ring and Fitbit and a lot of great hardware companies have come through True, which we're very lucky to get to work with these entrepreneurs. So we see by nature of those investments just a lot of that type of stuff, and it's sad because a lot of it is just like let's listen to the entire conversation, and to me that breaks a lot of these kind of social constructs that we have with humans around privacy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you feel like you should punch someone in the face for wearing it, you probably shouldn't invest in it. And that's a lot of these glasses where I'm just like, don't record, Right. And so oftentimes as an investor, you kind of have to not only say, okay, cool tech, sure, but emotionally, how does it make me feel and how does it make others feel around me? And for me, a lot of that is lost in all the AI stuff where it's just always on, always listening, trying to be the smartest person in the room, and it's just not healthy. And it's horrible. I admit, I did get a pendant, and I've got a few of these other ones, and I've tried them. And
you mean the Humane?
Yeah. So I tried one, and my wife was saying that she was doing something, and I was like, I know I got that in the logs that she didn't say that, and I was trying to use it to actually win an argument.
That can't be good.
That was the last time I wore that thing, because it was like, you do not want to win a battle by going back and looking at the logs of your AI pin. That doesn't fly.
Yeah.
And so. I think a lot of it's like almost like the tourist use case is not good enough. Like Segway, great tourist use case. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to see me, but I'm in a weird foreign country and I'm going to zip around town. Sure, but the same with the glasses. What is that monument? Those are all fun demos, but I feel we have to be very careful with AI because we tend to just apply it to everything as a bolt-on, and it's ruining the world. Like this idea that you go into your Photos app and you're erasing your friends out of the background. And like I had a friend that like erased a gate behind them to make the picture look better. I'm like, that's your yard. Like your kids are gonna look at that and be like, didn't we have a gate there? And it's getting so good.
Yeah.
But I worry it's rewriting history in some sense. And so some of this stuff, we're gonna look back on it and be like, wow, that was weird. We just slapped it on everything and thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
Similar to what happened in the early days of social, where you look back a decade or two later and you're like, I wish I would have done that differently. We're gonna have those same issues with AI.
Sure.
It's not to say it's all bad, and I applaud the entrepreneurs that are tackling the space, but we just have to be really careful about the downstream consequences long term.
Sure. Well, one thing that I think is interesting and difficult is, video generation specifically. Adam Mosseri of Instagram had recently talked about the fact that his children, all of whom are under the age of 10, will just grow up in a world where they know that what they're seeing is not necessarily what happened, which I just thought that's a huge burden for children. You've got young kids.
Oh,
so
gosh, I have this already. I was using Sora and I had miniature labradoodles that I had actually was selling on Sora, and I was bringing these little tiny puppies, and they're like, where can we get those? And I'm like, that's not really dad there. Or how do you have that conversation? So it is very awkward. You have to say it's like the movies.
Yeah.
That's the best proxy. You're like, oh, it's like movie magic. It's like when you see a show and they're flying but they're not.
Right.
That's what Dad's doing here. It's really tough.
I also wanted to talk to you just a little bit about the shape of the industry. So, again, we're talking about how many different fields are going to change. I talked yesterday morning with Vinod Khosla about job displacement, and he thinks really there's going to be a huge opportunity for people to just recreate the jobs that we have today, which is optimistic and I hope accurate. But we were talking a little bit about the venture field itself. So right now, a lot of firms, including Sequoia Capital, Rolf Botha was also here, they now have as many engineers or developers on staff as they do investors, which I think is kind of interesting. But everybody's really relying on data, and I guess I'd sort of wonder if, at some point, if that's going to be more disruptive to VCs than they imagine, or what your thoughts are there.
The barrier to entry for entrepreneurs is just every day that goes by, it is decreasing and shrinking in terms of our ability to go have an idea and launch it and find product market fit, at least on the software side of things. Hardware, obviously not so much, a lot of tooling, a lot of everything that has to happen on hardware. Very capital intensive business on hardware. Yeah. On the software side, it's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, and that will continue to be true over the next few years. When I was traveling up here with one of my colleagues, he hadn't vibe coded before. And by the time we got to the city, and we were leaving from LA, it was fully deployed and ready to launch app. And 6 months ago, if I had tried to build that app, I would have run into probably 20 or 30 errors that I would say, okay, take it to this coding engine. Oh, I'll fix that one myself because I know a little bit about CS back in the day. And so it would have been a process, but it would have been probably 10 times as long to get to the same output. And now there was one error that happened the entire time. In 3 months from now, Gemini 3 hits the market, there's going to be 0 errors or next to it. And these are all going to be, the beautiful thing about engineering is that it's not subjective. There is an objective outcome for all of these problems, which means that we can solve them. And so when they're solved, you'll just be able to dream something up and ship it. That means high school coding classes are no longer coding classes, they're vibe coding classes, and they will build the next billion-dollar business launched out of some random high school. It will happen. Yeah. It's just a matter of time.
That's great.
And so it puts entrepreneurs in a fantastic position because they can delay funding and not raise it until they absolutely need it, or maybe not even raise it at all. And so it's really going to change the world of VC, and I think for the better.
Yeah, I wonder how your partner's going to.
Well, I think it's, listen, at the end of the day, the entrepreneur is going to have issues that are not technical, and they're going to say, hey, listen, I have to do my first round of layoffs, or I'm having a hard time doing X, Y, or Z. They're very emotional problems. And so I think the VCs with the highest EQ that can show up best for the founders as their long-term partner, that have been with firms and aren't hopping around, that aren't just fly-by-night VCs, but ones that have been around and seen these problems at scale, they're going to be sought after because those are the issues that you're going to lean on your VC for. It won't be as much, yes, it'll be a little bit of capital to kind of fill the gaps as you're scaling, But at the end of the day, you're going to want someone that's really a friend and trusted colleague that's in the trenches with you, and not so much just who can rant the loudest on X.
Right, absolutely. We're going to run out of time here soon, but there are a lot of founders in the audience who love your podcast and love your point of view, and probably want to understand how to work with you. I feel like I've heard you say in the past, some people gravitate to people who are like really great storytellers, which is such a critical skill, or really technical founders. I think that you've sort of circled around people that are really smart when it comes to product design. So can you elaborate and tell me if I'm mistaken on that front?
In terms of what I look for personally?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just, this has been said before. When I was at Google, and I was over Google Ventures back in the day, I think it was Larry, it maybe have been Sergey, I'm not sure, but they said a healthy disregard for the impossible is what is important to look for. And that just rang so true to me back then, and that's exactly what we look for at True Ventures, is we want founders that aren't just sanding down the rough edges, but they're really swinging for the fences with big, bold ideas that everyone else says, that is a horrible idea, why are you doing this? That's what I'm drawn to, because even if it doesn't work, we love your mind, we love where you are, and we gladly back you the second time, because you are coming up with that pure, raw creativity and trying something new. And I think that, to me, is the most fun you will have as a partner with them, is seeing like the future through their eyes, and seeing that healthy disregard where they're going after big, ambitious things that will eventually, hopefully, change the world. And to me, that's the most important thing.
That's great. And maybe, I guess we're out of time. So that's it. Thank you so much,
Yes,
Kevin.
thank you for having me.
A really pleasure. Always love talking to you. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.